much. Now let's move on to our second knowledge session. Exports as a strategic lever, India's next big push. In this session, we will look at how India's defense industry is expanding its global footprint and how strong logistics and supply chains are critical to sustaining that momentum. And just in time, we are joined by the Secretary Defense Production, Mr. Sanjeev Kumar. Can I have a round of applause for him, please? And I would like to call upon stage the Moderator, Rear Admiral Sanjay Misra, retired Armament Specialist, Strategic Analyst. Our panelists, Dr. S.K. Sundararaman, MD, Shiva Texyarn. Mr. Nikunj Parashar. Can I finish the announcements and then you can play that? Thank you. Mr. Nikunj Parashar, Founder and CEO, Sagar Defense Engineering. We were supposed to be joined by Mr. Nilesh Tungar, the CEO of Kalyani Strategic Systems Limited, but unfortunately he is stuck in Pune on urgent work. He couldn't make it. In his stead, we are being joined by Air Vice Marshal N.B. Singh, retired, Advisor Defense, Kalyani Strategic Systems Limited. And our next panelist, Commander Shrawan Kapila, retired, Head Defense and Aerospace, Jeena Company. All right. First, let me request the Secretary Defense Production, Mr. Sanjeev Kumar, to deliver the keynote address. Can I have a round of applause for him, please? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon to all, ladies and gentlemen. It's my pleasure to be here. I've been told today that this is the 10th episode of Bharat Shakti platform on which we all are meeting. And today's Conclave's subject is Future Forward, Building Global Partnership and Indigenous Strength. So I must congratulate Mr. Gokhale and his team for putting up this very thoughtful conclave with excellent sessions. And I'm thankful to him and all of you to listen to me. Subject which I have been asked to speak is Export as a strategic lever, India's next big push. So what I gather from this subject is that I have to speak about India's journey in defense manufacturing, focusing on export and how it is important, relevant for our future and also as a strategic lever. So thank you very much for giving me this topic. So as we understand that the journey of Make in India in defense in last decade or so has been very significant. And this journey and its success can be seen from the numbers which are available in public domain. In fact, in last 11-12 years, our defense manufacturing, domestic defense manufacturing, have increased by a multiple of 2.6 from almost 46,000 crore per annum to more than 1.5 lakh crore per annum in the last financial year. That shows a very robust growth of more than 11-12%. Within the domestic defense manufacturing, the growth of export has been much more phenomenal. Our export figures are like it has increased over last 10 years from almost 700 crore to 24,000 crore. Our target for export by 2930 is 50,000 crore, whereas the domestic defense manufacturing target is 3 lakh crore by 2930. So one can say that significant achievement has been made in last decade or so. It can also be seen by number of manufacturers, participants in the defense manufacturing ecosystem. As per our information, more than 16,000 MSMEs are actively working in now defense manufacturing ecosystem. Typically, defense manufacturing ecosystem is led by few big platform players, integrators, which are supported by large number of tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 companies. Similarly, that type of ecosystem is developing in India. How we could achieve this, if you allow me to speak for a few minutes? It has been done by, I must say, very bold policy tools, policy initiatives, which Government of India led by Honorable Prime Minister and Honorable Raksha Mantri ji has crafted for us. First and foremost is push on acquisition of defense platform from indigenous sources. As I'm sure most of you would be aware that 75% of the defense capital acquisition budget is reserved for the purchases, acquisition from Indian sources. Then Indian sources are of two types, IDDM and Indian. So within that, the push is on for equipment platform which has been indigenously designed, developed and manufactured. Because what has been the objective of this Make in India? The main, foremost, or probably the single objective, if I allowed to say, I'm saying the word probably, is having self-reliance. So self-reliance would come when we have total control over our platform and we have total control of component assemblies, some-assemblies, which are getting integrated our platform. Why this control is necessary? All of you are very knowledgeable person. I need not really spend much time on that. But this fine distinction generally we lose when we start talking about Make in India. Make in India on the basis of a technology which is developed within India with total control over software, over future vertical, horizontal integration, control over supply chain, where there is no vulnerability even to friendly countries beyond a point can be called self-reliance, and IDDM is for that. The other side of Make in India is the technology being coming from some other country, maybe friendly foreign country. And as a TOT, either we manufacturing through our own domestic countries or getting manufactured by companies owned by foreign nationals in JV with our Indian companies is second leg of this indigenization. The second leg is very, very important, but as a Secretary DDP, I would say, cannot be the final goal. It can at best be intermediate goal, but many times it's so happen that intermediate goal clouds our vision and doesn't allow us to move firmly towards our ultimate goal. I understand there would always be a trade-off between intermediate goal and ultimate goal. That's why the policy makers, decision makers, industry leaders and the opinion makers, including conclave like this, need to clearly bear in mind that where we need to reach ultimately and whether the intermediate steps which we are taking are conducive for that ultimate journey, ultimate objective, or like a sugar pill making us addictive for intermediate goal and taking us away from our final goal. So having said that, I would say that IDDM, the things which are indigenously designed, developed, should be our ultimate goal, and we should all, policy maker, user, manufacturer, opinion maker, need to move in that direction with firm steps and full confidence. Intermediate goals should be integrated in our strategy to achieve the immediate objectives. With these words, I would say that demand has been created by taking a bold policy initiative of 75% by Indian, which slowly should move to IDDM. And then demand also has been created by bringing in lots of components, subcomponents on our Srijan portal by both, that is our DPSUs and also by our armed forces, giving opportunity to MSMEs for entering in the defense ecosystem by manufacturing those components. And a good success, significant success has been achieved. This market, defense market, is characterized by single purchaser. That's why it becomes necessary that first demand need to be created. Then only we can think of asking private capital, private resources to come in. And in my view, these 2-3 steps were the most important steps. Unlike in other market where there are multiple purchasers, multiple sellers, there people enter as a supplier, taking calculated risk with the understanding and option of either selling to purchaser 1 or to purchaser N, or even creating new need, new demand in the market, new purchaser, which is very unlikely to happen in this market. That's why after 2014, the significant step was taken, and it's really yielded good results. Having created demand wouldn't have been enough unless we allow private resources, private entrepreneurs to come in much more easily than it was happening earlier. So since then, in last 10 years or so, large number of initiatives have been taken by government to simplifying licensing process. Many equipment, many component, subcomponent have been delicensed from defense licensing perspective. And wherever licensing is still necessary, steps have been made much more simpler, though I am conscious of the fact that it still takes quite a significant time to get defense manufacturing license, involving many more stakeholders, including DDP, and then DDP involve much more stakeholders within DDP, within MOD fold, like armed forces, DRDO, DPSU, etc., then DPIIT, then MHA, then state government. So there are many more steps which we are trying to rationalize and simplify, and I'm sure that we should be able to reach to some better SOP in future. Apart from that, FDI has been liberalized, 74% has been now automatic route, and 100% in the chosen technology, where we feel that FDI can be the only way of getting those technologies. Also, to seamlessly transfer technologies to the private manufacturing ecosystem, schemes like TDF and DCPP by DRDO has been playing very important role, and a scheme like IDEX and Aditi has also played significant role in attracting large number of innovators, young entrepreneurs into the defense manufacturing ecosystem. And large number of projects are being undertaken by these innovators, young entrepreneurs, allowing them to dream and get integrated into the defense manufacturing ecosystem. Apart from these steps directly dealing with supply and demand, the factors which we may call hygiene factors has also been taken care of, at least in some measure, if not full measure, that is providing testing facilities seamlessly to our manufacturers, simplifying DGQA regime. The steps which we have taken last 1 year is we have simplified self-certification scheme, we have simplified green channel scheme by reducing turnover requirement of 500 crore to 300 crore, 200 crore, and also reducing the requirement of bank guarantee, etc. etc. So these steps has also been taken. Online testing portal has been created, which was inaugurated by Honorable Raksha Mantriji in the Aero Show, March 2025, where we have onboarded all the labs which are owned by DRDO, DGQA, DPSUs, and also service headquarters. Not only labs, but also the testing ranges, and we have also created an SOP for provision of proofs stock for the testing by the private manufacturers by DGQA. So that SOP was also released in the month of July, August. So these few steps we have taken. We are also enlarging and expanding our testing laboratory network, which we consciously understand that unless we increase the network of our testing laboratories, the development cycle would remain longish, because the dependence on testing, not only in the labs but also in the ranges field, takes lots of time, and the most of the development is being iterative. It need to be shortened. It requires huge capital expenditure. I am sure in coming days and years, government would be making those expenditures as a common good for the entire ecosystem and would also reap advantage in future. Coming to the issue of export, basically export authorization process has been simplified a lot in 2 stages in this year. First was done in March 2025. The latest simplification happened in October 2025. I can narrate which simplification have happened, but I would like to hear from the exporters whether really we have achieved the result which we intended to achieve. But the data which is with me shows now that 80% of the applications are getting cleared in less than 10 days. 20% of the applications are still taking time, ranging from 3 weeks to a month and sometimes more than a month. We are working on that. The issue is of consultation with other stakeholders, notably embassies and MEAs and sometimes other stakeholders. We are trying to come up with certain more protocol where we can try to bestow the self-clearance mechanism for at least trusted export houses. Don't take it as a promise from me, but it is in the direction in which we are working, where the trusted export houses on the basis of certain criteria would be recognized, and they would be allowed to create some sort of self-certification mechanism duly checked by us in the coming time frame, back end, without hurting your immediate export potential. Moreover, I have learned that many of our companies have become a stable partner of foreign OEM as a stable supplier of certain assemblies and component. And instead of they taking permission every time, we are working that if they have long-term agreement with foreign OEM, or if they are some subsidiary of foreign OEM, or they have TOT from foreign OEM, and they are going to supply those component assemblies to foreign OEM, then that this permission mechanism can be for much longer duration and much more stable, so that you can get integrated in their supply chain in seamless manner. On these steps we are working. Export as a strategy is important because if we have to become a very significant partner or significant player in defense manufacturing ecosystem, relying solely on domestic demand would not really take us too far. We have to, part of our manufacturing need to be catering for the foreign purchases, so to allow us to have economy of scale, so to allow us to have diversification of product, so to allow us to have a stable business, so that at least at minimum level our created capacities, whether in private sector or public sector, continue to operate. So export that way is a very, very significant strategy for long-term sustenance of domestic defense manufacturing. Apart from that, as a strategic political, whether geopolitical and military complex scenario, as many as country we are friendly with, either because of the relationship at a diplomatic level or military to military level, or through this defense manufacturing need, would always be useful whenever the game is played out at the regional or sub-regional or global level. For that particular purpose also, it is important for us to expand our export market. Where we can expand and how we can expand, all of you probably know, at least in your own domain, much better than me. And whatever I hear from you, interact from you, understand from you, what I can say is that we have some good advantage over others. Our country is still young. We have got large number of engineers. We are a well-diversified country geographically also, talent-wise also. Our talent is not limited into the one sector. Our talent is available in all type of requirement of the armed forces. Being big allows to create sustainable supply chain. Having young engineers at a slightly lesser cost also allows to become cost competitive. More so, having worked with both type of technologies, typically the erstwhile Soviet bloc technology and Western countries' technologies, having experience in both type of thinking, both type of design and process, both type of design principles, we have that edge that we can integrate both. We can become the partners of those countries we are independently relying on, either of these technological bloc, Western or Soviet. So we have expertise in the equipment which has been manufactured by erstwhile Soviet countries, and we can continue to service them in those countries where they have been purchased in large number. We can upgrade them, we can integrate them. So that allow us to probably export to Africa and some part of the Middle East and Southeast Asia. And similarly, having worked with the Western technologies, we can also get integrated our factories, our manufacture into the Europe. As all of us know, now entire EU is working on the rearming of itself project, and they are in the process of increasing their expenditure on military, including purchase and equipment, setting up of their own factories, either in their own country or foreign country like us. Their expenditure is going to increase from 2 to 5% in coming decade, if not earlier than that. That gives us lots of potential to get integrated into the supply chain of European countries. and also allow us to create JVs with them, either in their own country or in our country, which also in a way will help in diversifying our production and increasing our export. Another strategy can be totally different, that we understand that the battle scene are changing, the equipment requirements are changing. Lots of new technologies are going to get integrated, or rather going to become the pivotal in the defense equipments like AI, quantum computing, autonomous weapons, autonomous vehicles, etc., etc. So instead of waiting that advanced country move in that direction, then we join them, we can put our energy, resources, funds, equipment, and our intelligence in that area where we can just leapfrog in this emerging technology areas and can become, if not the world leader, at least equivalent to them, not remain as a follower or just component supplier. So we can pick up the strategy the way we want. So I would end my address to you with just one observation, that potential is huge. Our potential is also huge, but many times opportunities and capabilities, in spite of being there, lack of organizing ourselves result into suboptimal result. So it shouldn't be so in this case. We should seize the opportunity, you and me both, government and private sector and public sector both, and organize ourselves much better, much faster in a manner where we can seize opportunities which are available for expanding our footprints, not only in India, but beyond the boundaries of India. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Secretary DP, for a very illuminating talk on the policies. Now, this session is primarily about exports being a strategic leverage. When we talk about strategic leverage, besides the economy part of it, that it generates employment and gets you money, what's more important is that it leads to your strengthening of diplomatic ties. You build bonds with countries. It promotes your national security in dimensions. It makes other countries dependent on you for their supply chains. And for all that, what you require is innovation and research. To speak of some figures, in 23-24, the exports were 23,622 crores. Yeah. There is a memento presentation, so I'll briefly interrupt mine.
I'm very sorry, but the Secretary DP has to leave. He has another meeting, so I would request Nitin Gokhale to please present a memento to the Secretary Defense Production, Mr. Sanjeev Kumar. Thank you so much for your address. I wish you could stay and listen to the session, but it'll be great if you could stay for a few minutes. Sir, could you please continue? I hand over the session to you once again.
So I was on with some figures. And what it says is that 23-24, the total exports were 23,622 crores, out of which the private sector contributed some 15,233 crores, and the public sector 8,389 crores. So I think the composition of the panel is just right. Additional thing that the Secretary DP spoke of was in this entire abhiyan, of promoting exports, the role of MSMEs has to be factored in. Now, how do you get to export? We as a nation are a bit late on the block. So you have to compete against people who are already sitting in there. And how do you do that? Either you make your stuff cheaper, or you give a product which is better. The other thing is that when you're looking at only aggregating products, you are dependent, insofar as your supply chains are concerned, on various other countries, which again would have some kind of a diplomatic influence on them. So these are certain things that we have to look at. In the previous session, we were talking about R&D. If I remember correctly, I have not checked, but the R&D budget of Samsung as a corporation is more than the R&D budget of Government of India. So that's the kind of money that R&D actually requires. And till the time we don't address this issue, we can project that we'll be 30,000 crores or we'll be 50,000 crores in 2029. But then you are actually not using it as a strategic leverage. You're probably being just a part of it, where some sanctions here and there could probably saddle you or your economy with the kind of constraints that we are seeing of late. Another thing that's important is, which normally we don't look at, is the logistics management. How you get your stuff from one particular country to the other country is an issue that all of us have to factor in. If I can pick up from what the President of Ireland was saying the other day to Palki Sharma, he said that trade used to be a binding factor. Today, trade has become more of a warring point between nations. So we are in a very different kind of a geopolitical environment, and given the geopolitics of today's world, how do we continue to promote exports and leverage them strategically? With me on this panel, we have Dr. S.K. Sundararaman, MD Shiva Texyarn. Do I pronounce your name correctly, sir? Mr. Nikunj Parashar from Sagar Defense. Sagar Defense has been in the name for all the good reasons of late. Congratulations for the kind of work that you've been doing. Air Vice Marshal N.B. Singh representing Kalyani. And we have Commander Shrawan Kapila, he's got a 125-year-old logistics management company. So I'll request you, Commander Shrawan, if you could enlighten us on what is it that you think one needs to factor in when one is looking at exports as far as supply chain and logistics are concerned.
Thank you, sir, and thank you for introducing. Before I start, I would like to first congratulate Mr. Nitin Kokle and his team on this 10th edition. I think it's a significant milestone. I've been attending for the last 3-4 years, and it's grown from strength to strength. And like Admiral Misra just said, it coincides with our 125th, and we have a vertical for the defense and aerospace industry. What the industry and why it becomes significant for us to have a specific vertical towards defense is because the requirement of defense exports are unique. And I will break down I'll tell you what are the kind of factors which are involved. One is, of course, the cargo and the nature of the cargo. Then we have government agencies involved because they give you authorizations and licenses for various things. While Mr. Sanjeev Kumar has very rightly pointed out that the Department of Defense Production has now reduced their timelines to less than 10 days for certain clearances for exports. And I think that's a step in the right direction because I've been seeing the timelines reducing from 8 weeks to 6 weeks to 4 weeks to, and lesser. And sometimes it's even done in a couple of days. But there are more than one agency involved because as manufacturers would know that they need to knock on separate doors to get various authorizations, which I'll get to a little later. The third thing which is involved, of course, is the carrier. It could be the aircraft or it could be by sea. And they themselves require certain paperwork. And finally, at destination, they have separate regulation and policy. And I'll give you an example. While we were doing drones for a certain company, the destination didn't have a policy on import of drones or a re-export of drones because the drones were coming back after an exhibition. And challenges were faced because there was no policy at destination. Now, having said that, there are other factors like geography, international relations, geopolitics, the buzzword that we've been listening, and of course, global events. So amongst all these complications, I'll talk about it from the manufacturers or the exporters' perspective. While we are looking at exporting, we need to look at the compliances and we need to look at the certifications and we need to look at the export authorizations that are required. Why I mentioned cargo first, because if the cargo is general category, there's not much of hassle. But if your cargo comes under SCOMET, which is dual-use items, for those who are not aware, dual-use items, simply put, are items which in the hands of non-state actors could be used for amicable activities. So if it is that, then it requires certain authorization. And the third kind is what we call as class 1, or for the layperson, it would be just ammunition and explosives. So when ammunition and explosives comes in, there are separate authorizations. Each authorization, while we are looking at exports, we have to look at the timelines because there are timelines for each authorization to come through. And in case there's no urgency, as we are aware, each agency takes its own time because they have their checks and procedures. Sometimes for dual-use items, you have to look at the destination country and get certain clearances from the other side. So once we are looking at exports, one is time and the other is cost. Now, each complexity increases the cost. Coming to geography. Geography depends if the country is landlocked or whether the country has access to a seaport. Coming to international relations, I will interlink it with the carriers. Now, if the carriers are required to carry defense goods, they are supposed to declare. So in case of air, they are supposed to take overflight permissions. In case of sea, all ports of call need to be intimated regarding the nature of the cargo. And this is where international relations comes in or the bilateral relation comes in. For instance, if India, we were to export to country A and a vessel were to make a call at two separate ports, B and C, the carrier would require to inform and take approvals from B and C. And those approvals are subject to bilateral relationship between India, B and C, and A, B and C. So the thing is a little more complex than it looks. While most of the things do not have much of a challenge, these things, like I said, time has to be factored in. And last but not the least, I would like to stress upon class 1, which I was mentioning, sir. Presently, we don't have many shipping lines which are taking this kind of cargo. And at the policy level and even through various agencies, including the Society of Indian Defense Manufacturers, we are taking up certain points so that we get more and more shipping lines to carry our class 1 cargo. So there are a lot of people who are manufacturing small arms ammunition, medium caliber. So these things require shipping lines to step in and do the work. So these are the kind of things that I think the manufacturers would want to consider, especially like we have a lot of startups and new people who are coming in and they fail to factor the timelines, and sometimes the delivery becomes a challenge because it's got to do with payments and financial year ending, and so those are the things that we need to factor in before we look at exports. And I'll just finish with one thing, sir. Like we're talking of strategy, the strategic implication of exports. I think logistics, we have we sometimes tend to take it a little lightly, but logistics in itself is an instrument of soft power, sir, as we have seen in the past during COVID when we were responsible for distribution of life-saving vaccines and medication, not only in India, but globally. So I think it's imperative to factor in logistics as one of the key factors for moving exports and ensuring that end-to-end solutions are given, sought, and delivery timelines are met so that our manufacturers can get their payments on time. Finally, that's what it all boils down to.
Thanks,
so thank you, sir.
thanks, Shrawan. Logistics, the more one says, I think the lesser the kind of influences there. Current conditions with crude and how we are handling crude, it's not lost on anyone. Nikunj, you are a major player in the domestic market. Now, how do you see yourself positioning Sagar Defense on the global map and, kind of coming up with niche products where the supply chain dependencies, which we were dependent upon other countries till the recent past, we can reverse that and companies like you stay miles ahead for people to catch up.
Thank you so much, sir, for the question, sir. So one thing we need to understand, and let's look at India and the ecosystem in terms not only defense, but overall technology and deep tech. When you take it software, we are great service industries. When you look at hardware manufacturing, also we are turning into a service industry. Even with our partnerships, we do carry out very good service. Most important, and especially for organization like us, and this is something 12 years back we realized that if we have to keep growing in, the ecosystem is not there. Even today when we stand here, the ecosystem is not there even in per se with the defense tech. And you need to be, so you need to create an ecosystem. What we did at Sagar was we started building our company in a vertically integrated solution organization. When you start building yourself into vertically integration scenario, what happens is you do hardware, you do softwares, and you actually do mechanical hardware. Now, it is not possible for one organization also to do that. That means you come up, set up in belts where you get your ancillary units all around. That means if an organization has to grow, it should have ancillary ecosystem around it to support. This was something, the initial realization as an entrepreneur, we realized, and from Mumbai, I shifted to Pune across to start this. When we started doing it, and when you look at technology R&D funding which comes in, yes, where we have programs and great programs like IDEX and Aditi which are running in, and which has helped us to scale today to the level where we are in, and with also confirmed orders which are going into 1,000 crore plus. What we also see is there is a dependency in certain scenarios with foreign OEMs where you need to do. We went one step ahead. We raised some investments across, and we went and invested into our key players abroad in Europe. So, we're putting it for the first time. Two major component suppliers to us, we went and invested in them and bought good equity across. That means you start securing your supply chain in. Now, this is the way we believe that if you are especially working in a defense space as an organization and you are very serious of creating an institution, you should also look at securing your supply chain. It happens in two ways. One is you securing a supply chain. Second, it is also opening a market, how the international global geopolitics is working out and how you could position yourself for an export market. Now, this investment has in terms helped us to now start export market in the European as well as in the American industry. And that's how, at Sagar we have been trying to do till now, sir.
Good, Nikunj. In fact, you've covered quite a few points. AVM NB Singh sir, you represent Bharat Forge, and if I remember correctly, you were the first ones to get the guns off, so to speak, as far as the private sector is concerned. Now, I also understand there is a huge amount of money that you've been investing in R&D. So, how do you think that the sort of money that you've put in R&D has fructified in your getting international orders?
Thank you, Sanjay. Good afternoon, everybody. R&D has been a focus area for Bharat Force from very beginning itself. We all know Bharat Force is world leader in automobiles. And automobile requires a lot of metallurgy. And if you have to lead from the front, you have to have a lot of new materials coming up every day. And that's where the R&D started in Bharat Forge. And since it was in the DNA of Bharat Forge, the same thing continued when we created a defense vertical. At the same time, all these practices which were there for the automobile industry and metallurgy, they all practices were put in use over here. And that's how we started having a very heavy expenditure on the R&D. Compared to, I won't say the international standards, but compared to Indian standards, Bharat Forge is spending a lot of money when you compare with other industry as such. Now, it has been done in-house. It is being done in collaboration with the academia. It is being done along with the startups, everything. In-house system is very unique so far, which I found it in Bharat Forge, is like whatever the engineering graduates come over there, we select 10% of them for their post-graduation. And out of the post-graduation output which we take, we send them abroad for their PhDs on our own expense. And when they come back, we have created our own institutes of 2, 3, where pure research is being done, R&D is being done, and they are put into use. This is the cycle which churns every year, and that's how we sustain the growth of R&D. So coming to the R&D, and so far I will narrate you an incident how the R&D has helped for us to create a platform which is recognized by the world. ATAGS, everybody knows that we created a platform of artillery gun called ATAGS. During the trials, around 3 years back in Pokhran, we found that breech block is not working properly. It is not opening the way it should open. And breech block being the heart of any artillery gun, everybody knows. And this was driven by a software which we have taken from Elbit that time. When we went to the Elbit to modify this software for our requirement, the ask was very high. They quoted the price which was much more than what we expected. Then our R&D, in-house R&D was utilized, and we modified the codes our own, and software was developed in-house. And after that, the breech block has never given a problem. So this is the effect of good and strong R&D in-house, absolutely. How it has helped, everybody knows, we exported the first gun to the foreign country before inducting into Indian Army. That is the, you can say the proof that R&D has paid us off. That's what I want to say.
Thank you, sir. Getting to Dr. Sundararaman, you were from Texyarn. So, strictly speaking, one would say that probably you were in a field which is not weapon-oriented, although it serves the people out there who are fighting a war. Now, what's been your experience? In particular, what I would be looking at is, when you're exporting, if one goes by the famous 5 quarters, 5 force model, what's important is that you position yourself in such a way that competitors or alternative products don't come in this scenario. So you always have to be ahead. So how do you think you've been able to do the wonders that you've done?
Thank you, sir, and good afternoon, friends. So I come from textiles, which is as light as you can get, I think, in this entire defense material ecosystem. I'm sitting with all hard engineering gentlemen over here, but then as long as there's people serving in the armed forces, they need to wear something and we'll be always in business. And the other thing is the textile business that we come from is, we've been exporting all over the world, conventional stuff, for a very long time. So we know how to do that. And most of the clothing items out of India don't come under any restrictive list except the CBRNE products that we do, which come under SCOMET. So we don't have a restriction or licensing environment as well. Having said that, we have been exporting our products, different products in our range, to multiple countries. And there are two things that I would like to share here in our experience. One has been that the only way we have been able to succeed till this point is to have a local partner in a European country or elsewhere who are already in that business, who have been part of the manufacturing ecosystem, who have a brand that's recognized in that particular country. And then we actually collaborate and go forward. We have found that going direct as an Indian product supplier into these forces takes time. There are alternates, and the customers are generally hesitant to buy. So the most important thing that we've seen is, if particularly our product range, if we have to go global, then it's about the chains that you create in terms of the forward chains.
As
and
you
we
say,
have
shaping the environment.
Yeah. The other point, sir, there is a very interesting opportunity, in the sense that we've seen that those companies that are, and I'm talking now in a purely third-party sense, but we are also one of them, those companies that are ready to supply in short term are really beneficiaries of the current uncertain environments where wars just happen, erupt overnight, and then sudden surges in demand happen. And we have been beneficiaries of that, and our ability to have large capacity to turn around things, and ability to bring raw materials onto the thing literally overnight. Those would be the defining factors of creating an export environment today. And that's becoming more so with these conflicts popping up at random all over the place. That's my experience. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So basically what you're saying is that one is that one needs to have enough capacities and probably leverage them when the time comes. It's a pretty interesting session, and I had many questions, but I've just got this thing that I need to wind up by 13:35. So, okay, earlier than that. 10 more minutes. Okay, so I believe the Chief of Air Staff has given us some time. So, getting back to Nikunj, to you in particular, how do you, I mean, yes, you spoke about software, hardware, this, but there is another dimension, that is system engineering. Now, we as a nation have not been very good at system engineering. We have done exceedingly well in in silos, but we have not been able to marry all of them together. So how do you think, what is it that we should do to improve upon this system engineering part of it? Again, looking at it, that we position ourselves in such a way that they come only to us and nowhere else.
So this is also one of the reasons why Sagar Defense is successful today, system engineering. I think this starts with the customer. Now, when you start building a product, I'm a navigator, I'm a merchant naval captain, I sailed, I'm a navigator, I'm not a technocrat. I'm by RV Failu, physics, chemistry, maths across. So when we went about building the company, we really went across to the customers, whether it's Navy, like that's the largest customer we work with, along with that Army, and now with the Air Force. When you talk about system engineering, you need to talk to the customer, understand the customer requirements, and then you look at conventional systems which are already there. The biggest challenge what we see is all of a sudden if an organization or a startup looks at disrupting the technology or the way a system is functioning, then there is a challenge. So the first aspect of system engineering is an understanding of how and what the customer wants. When you start from there, then, and that's why we say is the ecosystem. when you talk about system engineering, what is the ecosystem is going to provide you to build that system in different building blocks. So understanding that different building blocks for doing up a system right from the lowest level and then going up high end. That's where the vertical integration again, sir, comes into play. So we worked around this with the customers, then building up the systems ground up. And second was building the sovereign tech. Now, when we look, there's a lot of open source domain technology which is available. You look at hardware, you look at platform, and also you look at software. If your dependency starts going on open source technology way too much across, then you don't land up building products which is actually should scale up. That means you are dependent on the community to go to the next level. So you could use bits and parcel of the open source technology, but then you integrate with the overall project frame, which helps you to build your end product. And that is what we have been doing in. And for that, then you go to the best people, hire the best people. That is not in terms of just IITs or NITs, but people with the right attitude, right set of frame, and the hunger in the belly to take it to the next level. That's how we do it, sir.
AVM NB Singh sir, ensuring supply chains is extremely important. And when I talk about supply chains, I'm looking at back end. You know, for the kind of stuff that you do, from the raw material stage to sub-assemblies to subsystems to systems, you need to ensure that all of them are in place. Now, to get everything under one umbrella that's within the country may not be feasible. So what is it that you feel would be the best way, again considering the present day geopolitics, where all of a sudden one day you find that the rare earth elements are not coming, or you find that especially elements of advanced metallurgy like ceramics, etc., difficult to lay hands on. And you need to remain competitive in the international market for your product to be acceptable. So what is the guru mantra that, based on your experience, you would like to share?
Yeah, it's a very, very important. For any production agency, the supply chain plays a very vital role. Now, if you have to ensure that just-in-time inventory is available for your production to cut the cost, it is not feasible in the present day geopolitical situations, because there are certain items which have become very long lead. So you have to invest more money, and so far your requirement has to be divided in three parts. With the long lead, what is second point is where second part is where you have to obtain the material from other resources, and third one is what all you can produce within your premises. So these are three categories, and you have to deal them very, very separately and differently. Like all the long lead items, you have to not ensure that it just reaches on time. This is planned in such a manner that is, it reaches you at least 3 to 4 months in advance, so that at the last moment you are not stuck for those items. Because in a platform, even if one item is not available, the platform is not complete. And that's the reason some of us have not been able to, some of the industry partners who have not been able to meet the requirement of the armed forces, and there have been delays and LDs and all those things happening over there. So it has to be tackled in a very different manner. And the present day geopolitical scenario plays a very, very vital role, because everything you cannot produce within the country. So far India is concerned, as on date, you have to depend on foreign sources, and these sources are utilizing these trade routes as tool to have influence your policies. So that's why we have to be managed within that scenario as such.
Thank you, sir. Because of short of time, and I've again got a signal that I need to wind up. There are many things that have been done. There are quite a few things that need to be done. The purpose and the intent of this particular session was to highlight where are the gaps and what we need to plug. But as I was driving up this morning I heard a beautiful Muhammad Rafi song, which I thought I'll share the lyrics with you, and I wrote it down because I'm not too good at that. It says, कैसी भी हो राहें, कैसी भी हो मुश्किल, अब तो है एक जैसी तेरी मेरी मंजिल, तेरे मेरे सपने अब एक रंग हैं. I'm sure we will be able to put ourselves on the international market sooner than later. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and I'm sorry for rushing you, but the Chief of Air Staff is going to be here on time. So I will request all of you to please have a quick working lunch and come back in half an hour instead of the 50 minutes that we had kept. But not right now. Please, let's first present a memento to our moderator and panelists. And to do the honors, I request Brigadier S.K. Chatterjee to please come up and present mementos. And I suggest the rest of it, what we talked about, you are talking about, it was a very interesting session. Let's take it forward over lunch. That was a very insightful discussion. And may I request you to please present a memento to our moderator, Rear Admiral Sanjay Misra, Armament Specialist and Strategic Analyst. A memento to Commander Shrawan Kapila, retired, Head Defense and Aerospace, Jeena Company. To Air Vice Marshal N.B. Singh, retired, Advisor Defense, Kalyani Strategic Systems Limited. To Dr. S.K. Sundararaman, M.D., Shiva Texyarn. And to Mr. Nikunj Parashar, Founder and CEO, Sagar Defense Engineering. Can I request all of you to please assemble for a group photograph? This session looked at how India's defense industry is expanding its global footprint, how strong logistics and supply chains are critical to sustaining that momentum. It was a very interesting session, and thank you all once again for taking out the time for us.